I really like what Fleet, the impulses that I get. I really dig the idea of stepping into fresh air, fresh spaces that are old, because you've renewed yourself, you've refreshed yourself. I really dig stepping into my kitchen, as if it's the first time, you know? I really dig it. I dig, I was doing yoga. I did a piece the other day, an essay on yoga, and they wanted me to write this, really, I don't know what they wanted me to write, but they loved it. but how I do yoga is I'm sitting on the floor. I mean, this is so important because when I break bread with the darkness, I have to be very, very, very careful not to submit myself to the darkness, not to relinquish myself to it. I have to be able to appreciate darkness like an old lover or like a child. And I grieve the letting go. I grieve the surrender of it, you know? But it's just the way it has to be, because I can't go there. But when I sit down and do my yoga, there's no such thing as a right way in my life. There's always Dharma on the edge. So I'm doing the yoga, and all of a sudden I get hit with panties in my face. And I'm in the middle of a very solemn, and I open one eye, and it's my 4-year-old daughter saying, she just threw her panties at me, right? And I'm like, okay, this is good. This is real good, because I'm still focusing on the center and keeping myself centered, right? And then without me doing anything, if I just let it take its course and stay on the edge, without saying, oh, you got to go out of the room. You can't be doing this on the interruptions. What is wrong with you? I just do, and it's Papa. And I look down, and she sat herself next to me between my legs, and she's now going, and Roshi it's such a beautiful thing to be able to come here, to be welcome here. Last time was my daughter. And likewise with Isa, and likewise with the dogs. I can't, everything in the house is a landscape of edges. I can't put up perimeters. Because if I start to put up perimeters, I start to make myself important. And if I make myself important, then I can't write. Because, oh my God, is that what an important man? It's about that old thing when I was a kid. Everybody in the barrio they all talked about the shoes down at Macy's. And there was this one pair of shoes that had like $700. And we were like, check it out about los calcos de amor, los calcos de la vida buena. It's the shoes of a good life, the shoes of heaven, you know. Anybody who can get these shoes, you know. So we're all like trying to get all our money together. And then some damn bureaucrat buys the shoes. He works downtown at the police department. It's probably some lousy lawyer or something, right? Anyway, he buys the shoes, but everybody knew the guy. They said, no, he made it. It's del barrio, but he came out of the barrio. And he bought, and we all went to the big old display case, and the shoes were gone. It was like half of our souls were gone. Like, where are the shoes, you know? Where's our dream? That's what we were working for. Now we've got to go rob banks and go back to where we were. Because that was the reason we were going to be good, right? Was to get those shoes, right? Well, when the shoes were gone, we heard later that he quit his job. And not only that, we heard that he took a bus to Los Angeles and that he got into a fight one night and happened to stab a guy and was doing time in prison. And I told him, I don't want them shoes, man. I'm not that important, you know. He could have the shoes. And I realized then, you know, no perimeters, no shoes, no red shoes in my life. Just give me sneakers, you know. But that whole thing about what Fleet was saying, he says it in such clear terms that I was even thinking, you're going to do a workshop, I would like to come. We'll talk about that later, please. But, yeah, so, the red shoe syndrome.
In my Shambhala Buddhist tradition, you said in the intro, I practice in both the Zen and the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and in particular, the Shambhala tradition is a particular kind of lineage of teaching within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition that actually is very positive oriented. It doesn't like traditional Buddhism. You know, we kind of begin with suffering, and life is suffering, and it's, you know, and you work your way from there. If you don't get thoroughly depressed and give up, then you. So Shambhala could be said to come from, and a lot of the kind of theoretically more advanced practices or whatever people have been practicing for a while, it's really about building up these moments of integrity and building up greater and greater capacity and strength of mind and confidence in one's own being and one's goodness through just really stringing together moments of authenticity and integrity and virtue, in the sense of, moments of compassion as opposed to moments of violence or anger or greed or selfishness. And over time you keep building up this strength. But interestingly, the most advanced retreat in that path that we're all kind of trying to develop the capacity to actually be able to hold our mind to do, is called a dark retreat. You actually go into complete darkness for a month. So even though that path has this kind of seemingly kind of more positive, maybe could be called more of a right hand than a left hand path, still ultimately it's that final encounter with darkness.
That's heavy. No, I've always been afraid of darkness. And that sometimes when I'm alone in my house and the room is completely dark, I'll stand there just to gauge my fear. It's a very, I remember I was in Virginia once, and I had fasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and I was at the, and I don't know why I broke down. I was crying and weeping by this tree, by this rock, and then that night, this huge, massive truck rumbled in to the field I was sleeping in, and all these guys were drinking. They had guns, and they didn't know I was like an animal in the grass. I was low to the earth, just looking at them. And by then, after the 3rd night of no eating or drinking, I could just feel the reverberations of the violent energy hit me, And after they left, I could smell the exhaust and stuff, and I just started crying and crying and crying. But I thought that I was pretty strong at that point, And the next day I was really tired, and I went up to this rock, a big rock, over the New River, and I looked around at the forest feeling, someone's looking at me, who is it? And I kept on scanning the forest line, and then I looked down, and there was a cottonmouth at my feet, my bare feet, and it was in a sinkhole, and I had my stick, and the stick was about 4 inches away from the hole, and I thought, okay. So I said, I sort of asked the snake permission to leave its house. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to violate your place. And I backed away slowly. And then, of course, as it goes, the stops in the way of integrity, I had already gone through 21 years of being institutionalized and facing death every day at the hands of another inmate, right? From the time of being an orphan all the way through prison. So you have to deal with that every day, and someone wanting to fight you and stab you and stuff, all of which I've been stabbed and shot before, right, in fights. And you think that that's how you measure your manhood, and you realize that's not how you do it. It's really stupid. I mean, you get to a place where if you, I did anyway, I got to a place where when someone wanted to do some harm to me, I don't know what happened, but I would appeal to some part of themselves that had been really hurt, and it just diffused and neutralized the hostility. But being free is a whole different thing than being institutionalized for 21 years. So being free, I was trying to find my center and I couldn't do it. I couldn't write. I've just been out of prison almost 2 months now. I couldn't write. I couldn't, I was lost. So I decided that to prove myself, I would sleep in the snake's way. So I laid my blanket down at the base of the rock, and I went and got some water out of the river and put it next to it, and I went to sleep on the blanket. And I could sense the snake get up, and I could sense the snake come down that boulder, go hunting in the field. And I got up, I rolled my blanket up, and I moved away and went to sleep by the tree. And I was really hurt that I wasn't brave enough to stay there that whole night. I really was. I was really, really wounded and considered myself a hypocrite of sorts because of all my poetry and everything I had said in it, and yet I couldn't even sleep and trust the snake, I couldn't trust the snake. And that's like the #1 act of courage or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I couldn't do it. And then the next day I realized how frail I was and what a long way I had to go to be able to sleep in the snake's way. I can't do it today. And that's a sort of darkness, right?
Well, that frailty, I think, there's something about, I can only speak sort of from a male, obviously from a male perspective. And I think as men, we spend a lot of time trying to find ourselves and prove ourselves through various rites of passage, either conscious or unconscious ones. And prison is unfortunately a dominant rite of passage in our culture now, and it was one for both Jimmy and I. But ultimately, I think for myself, it's always been some way in which I embrace the feminine that actually takes me into deeper levels of courage. And again, that's a quality of the darkness, not the darkness in terms of violence or abhorrent things, but more like the earth itself. So I think, and also that frailty is part of that quality of surrendering to something, even if it's surrendering to admitting our own frailty. I spent a good part of what are we in August? September 8th, it'll be 2 years since my partner died. And I've spent most of these last 2 years just sobbing. Mm-hmm. 60-year-old man who's, spent 14 years in prison and been through all the things I've been, and I've just been sobbing.